Why is it you can want something and at the same time resist it from actually coming into your life? Like there's a subconscious block there, even though you're like, well, I consciously want a relationship, want more abundance, want to be doing what I love full time, but there's something there blocking me and I don't actually know what it is. Well, in this video, I want to show you why that happens and exactly what you can do to completely transform yourself from the inside out, knowing that this is more than trying to become anything else. It's about an undoing. It's like in the movie The Matrix, where Neo is there and Morpheus is explaining to him that this is more about unlearning than it is about learning.
You have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind.
And in the same way, what if what has become familiar to you is actually the lack of the thing that you want? This is where things get very powerful when you start to understand this. Now, when you realize that you think what you want, this is a game-changing understanding when I'm coaching people. It's something that a lot of times will pop them into understanding certain things about their childhood and certain things about their energy. You think what you want, for example, might be a relationship. You say, I want a relationship. I consciously want a relationship. And remember, first off, the more you want, the more you lack. The more it says, this thing is not here now. So that's one little component of it. Another component of it, though, sometimes wanting a relationship or being alone may actually feel more safe and familiar than putting yourself out there to meet someone else. So really think about that for a minute. You may think you want to be in a relationship. You may think you want to be doing what you love full time. But there might be a subconscious energy there that wants to play small, that wants to stay in known territory. Because the known territory feels more quote unquote safe and more patterned to the nervous system. This is also the thing that blocks so many people, is their nervous system may not know what it's like to actually be in a healthy relationship. The nervous system may not actually know what it's like to have the energy come through to be in your true power. Because as a kid, maybe that wasn't fostered. So in an interesting energy, you can see that you may not actually subconsciously want a relationship. Because there's survival safety mechanisms within your consciousness that are keeping you in the familiar, which is very similar to the word familial. Going back to childhood, it may feel like family to play small. It may feel like family to be alone in your room. The weird one. I had this recollection and this realization, and this is also, by the way, connected to Alfred Adlerian psychology, where we all have certain goals, but these goals sometimes are subconscious. So you may think you have a goal to attract a healthy relationship, when subconsciously attracting a healthy relationship may be intimacy, and intimacy may not be a subconscious desire of yours. There may be a subconscious energy there where, like, I can see, for example, that my dad, for example, who was married twice, and his ex-wife is my ex-stepmom. She was very controlling. And I can see that as much as, like, I tell my dad, like, you should go out and date. You should go do this. There's also a desire he has to be alone because his story is that relationships are a lot of work. And the last one or two he had didn't go as well as he wanted to, so he doesn't want to be drained at the same time. So he has a subconscious energy to not be drained, blocking him from actually going out and meeting people. And he's becoming aware of that, and he may still choose to live in that energy, but this is why it's about becoming aware of the energy that we have primed our nervous system for. So when I went through family constellation therapy, for example, in Sedona, I flew there, I felt called to it. I had a friend of mine tell me that if you do this, it's extremely powerful. Family consolation therapy is a very kind of bizarre process of healing where you have strangers that are someone certified in this process that brings in other people that play different members of your family, some of which you may have never met. So I had someone playing the energy of my mom who passed away, the energy of my mom's mom, my mom's dad. Someone played the energy of me, and I got to see them dialogue. And the idea is that within our energy field, they start to play out different dynamics. And it was bizarre because they knew nothing about my family. They knew nothing about things I didn't even know because I didn't really know my mom's mom or my mom's dad because she ran away when she was 12 years old. But from what I did know, it was extremely accurate. And what I noticed was a few things. One thing I noticed was my mom was going through her process. The lady that was playing my mom even kind of looked like my mom. And I'm sitting here watching this happen in a living room at this lady's house. And she's like going through her process. My mom went through a lot of trauma growing up. And she was just kind of in her own process. And the little me, the 70-year-old guy that was playing me, would come up to this woman, and I was playing my mom, and like tug on her dress or whatever. And my mom was just kind of like in her mode. And then I'd keep coming back to try to get mom's attention, but then eventually just kind of gave up and started to play, started to get busy, which I thought was very interesting because in the past, in general, there is a survival mechanism I have towards always staying busy, working really hard. And it was almost like in a moment I saw that there was a part of me that said, screw it. If I'm not going to get it, I'm going to meet my own needs. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to play. I'm going to create a business. I'm going to create a YouTube channel. I'm going to work hard. But the time I realized that my nervous system wasn't really primed for the love was at the very end of this whole entire experience where I actually, it's going to sound kind of weird, the lady that was playing my mom laid down on the floor, or was sitting on the floor, and I laid my head in her lap. And she was nurturing me as the inner child part of me maybe didn't feel nurtured. And as she did, there was something that felt so uncomfortable about it. Not just because I'm in some random lady's, my head's in some random lady's lap, but there was this energy in my nervous system that started to bubble up and this sharp pain in my heart, which made no sense logically. Like, what? I want to receive the love. I want to heal my inner child. That energy felt so unfamiliar to me that I could see that, and here's what happened. I felt that emotion, the sharpness in my heart. As I sat with it and as my body shaked a little bit, it began to go away. And then this love, warm feeling and like expansion of my energy field came. And after that, it felt totally different. Felt like I completed and kind of like let go of some energy that was stored, this heart wall that I had around my heart that was blocking me from feeling the love, the worthiness within myself. But what was very interesting is I could see that subconsciously in the past, I could have said, I want a relationship. I want to feel or like to go do this or to go do. I could see that I was literally blocking it because it felt unfamiliar to my nervous system. So we think, I want this, but subconsciously we may block it because it may feel unfamiliar. It may actually feel like, and we may even interpret it as sharp pain. Isn't that crazy? Like I interpreted that in my heart as sharp pain. It's bizarre, right? So many times, what is familiar is what we attract. And people say, why do I attract narcissists? Why do I attract controlling people? Well, let me ask you a question. Was it familiar and normal for you to have a controlling person or a narcissist in your life as a kid? Because if it was normal and it was familiarized, then there's no wonder that you may tolerate that energy in your life now. We tend to tolerate energy that feels familiar. And the power comes as you become aware of what familiar is for you. As you become aware of that even familiar that was priorly on autopilot, as you start to become aware of that, you can then start to make a new wired-in connection to a new you. And it will require vulnerability. It will require opening your heart more. It will require looking at beliefs and looking at your associations with different energies. You may look around right now and be like, I have a lot of controlling people in my life. I did from until I went through my awakening, and then even then, there were some people in my life that were reflecting back a certain level of control. And they were allowed in my life because it felt normal to have to fight for my own power. Until I became aware of the energy and chose to set boundaries with it, it was in my life. And really, I would say too, part of this was forgiving my ex-stepmom in 2012 really started to unravel that. Because think about it. You have an energy field around your body. Within that energy field around your body, if you have stored resentments, stories about other people that aren't fair, guess what ends up happening? You end up projecting those out onto the world, either attracting people to reflect those stories back or pulling out of people those characteristics and dynamics. So becoming aware of what you have to take ownership for that energy, and then maybe choose to forgive. Forgive means before, like forefathers, before, like before you gave it that meaning, you neutralize the meaning. You neutralize the meaning by understanding everyone is doing the best they can with the level of consciousness they're at. I understood that, I could see that my ex-stepmom was treated that way by her dad. Didn't make it right, and I wasn't like, oh great, I had to, fight for food as a kid, but I had to let go of the victim blame story. And this is where I was coaching someone the other day, and we were that was, wanting to go full time with their purpose or their passion, and they said something to me that I found very interesting, and I had to be kind of firm because I've been caught up in stories like this too. She was talking about, sometimes people on social media that want to grow their social media, they're like, well, the algorithm doesn't support me, doesn't like me. Or the algorithm isn't like sharing my content. This is a reflection of a story from childhood, can be a reflection from childhood of a similar story, a similar vein that says, this is happening to me. This is happening to me, and this is not fair. Imagine the belief system you have if the algorithm, this external thing outside of yourself, is controlling you and people say that, like, oh, I'm shadow this or whatever. The only reason you are that is because you're not looking at your own shadow and asking yourself, what is the belief I have about this system, about reality? People get caught up in conspiracy theories a lot of times and start developing a whole bunch of negative beliefs about everyone's out to get them. And they stay trapped in lower vibrational energy because of that. What I want, and my intention, is to help free people to realize your reality is simply a reflection of what you believe to be true. If you have autopilot stories from childhood that say that this is happening to me, you will continue to attract situations in your life to reflect that back. Like for a long time, I was having controlling people in my life that I had to fight against. Felt like life was unfair. Had to deal with managers, very similar to childhood dynamics. Until I questioned it, until I looked at it, until I drew boundaries with it and I chose something else. So one way that I look at the algorithm is I see the algorithm as this friendly thing. I see it as this thing that wants to help me. And the more I can help, I see the algorithm as the audience. If the audience resonates with my content, great. But I don't see it as this evil force. You see, we project onto other external things that are on the inside. And unless we own it, they own us. Do you see? So really, what this is about, this subconscious energy that we're talking about, how you can actually want something and block it at the same time, the holding on to the victimization and the blame from childhood is what is keeping that desire from coming into your life. You have to take ownership of it. Now, what ownership means is it means responsibility, which is your ability to respond, your ability to choose a new meaning, your ability to let go, your ability to not continue to get the dirty payoff of justifying why things weren't fair as a kid. That was me for a long time, holding on to resentment. Well, I didn't have much of a childhood. Well, guess what? That kept my childhood alive. And a huge shift in consciousness happens when you move into freedom from victimization. And you become free when you stop playing the game of trying to justify the things from childhood. Trying to play it out. We literally play out childhood energy over and over and over again until we learn the lesson, until we take our power back. You attract people into your life that reflect back unprocessed energy. So a very powerful thing to do is to take responsibility in all areas. If it's within your field, it's your responsibility to clear, to forgive. Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, is a way of clearing out these energetic patterns. It's extremely powerful. Part of the process, by the way, I have a free course called High Vibe 101. It's a $1,000 course for free in my free community called High Vibe Tribe. If you want to check it out, click the link below. I'll pin it in the top of this, the comment of this video. However, there's a whole section in there about forgiveness and about the power of Ho'oponopono and how that clears you energetically. And you do something called a high vibe detox to clear out your nervous system. So you can go through that whole entire process. I literally made it available for free because I think people should have this kind of information. And understand that there's also breath work in there that will show you how to repattern your nervous system for more love, joy, and abundance. But you have to feel it to heal it. So you subconsciously are blocking what you want because you don't actually want what you want. You want to stay in familiar, and that's hard to look at. It's hard to look at that. How can you admit, what do you mean, Aaron? I want love. I want abundance. I want money. But you also don't want to let your friends and family down. You don't want to abandon your family for becoming successful. You don't want the burden of your family reaching out to you once you are successful. You don't want to go on dates where there's maybe rejection. I want, I lack. I don't want to look at my childhood dynamics. Which is a lot of what I'm really passionate about doing, is embracing the shadow, looking at that inner... Really what it is there's an inner child part of you that feels unacknowledged. That's afraid. And if you were to meet that inner child part of you and be with it, you would encourage them. You would soothe out your own nervous system. You could then start to embrace the unknown. But you can only do that once you take ownership, once you take responsibility within yourself. So check out High Vibe 101 if you haven't already. It's free. Also, if you want a video on Ho'oponopono and the amazing power of it, I have a video that I made right here, which is completely life-changing if you apply it. By far, the most powerful healing modality I've ever found.